Welcome back to another episode of True Crime with Lux. So I want to give a little warning at the head of this. Today's case is a heavy one. I'll be discussing the murder of Elyse Pahler, a 15-year-old girl whose life was taken by 3 boys that she thought she could trust. Elyse Marie Pahler was born on April 24th of 1980. Her parents were David and Lisa Ann Pahler, and she was born in Templeton, California. The family had 3 more children, making Elyse a big sister. The family moved to Arroyo Grande, California. On the night of July 22nd, 1995, Elyse headed to bed after spending the night with her family. She placed pillows under her blankets so if anyone were to come check on her, they would just think she was sleeping. Then she snuck out for the night. Now, a little bit of a backstory. She had recently started acting more rebellious. She was smoking weed and drinking and sneaking out of the house more often. Her parents were starting to worry about her behavior. One day, they had received a call from her school informing them that she was acting like she was under the influence of something, and with the zero tolerance, they were going to have to suspend her. It was discovered that before school that day, Elyse had had a drink and smoked some weed. Now, her parents, wanting to be as helpful as possible, immediately put her into a substance abuse program. They tried talking to her to see what was going on with her, and just hoped that she would trust them and open up to them, and all she would say is that she was fine. Her behavior didn't make sense to her parents because this just wasn't like her, but she was also still doing really well in school, and she played soccer, and her 2 best friends were good kids who weren't, getting into anything like this. They weren't drinking or smoking like Elyse was. It just seemed strange to everyone that was close to her, and they couldn't understand why, in their mind, she was acting out. The next morning, after she snuck out, her parents realized she was gone and immediately started panicking. They knew that she'd snuck out before a couple of times, but they usually caught her as she was sneaking back in. She always made sure to be home in time to try to get away with it before her parents woke up, but she had never stayed out all night and just not come home. They went to the police and explained what happened, and police were concerned because Elyse was only 15, but at the same time, she snuck out before, and it wasn't all that out of the ordinary, so police looked at it kind of like a runaway. Her parents could sense that there was just more to this. It wasn't a simple she went out and didn't come back home. They felt it in their gut, like something was wrong. She would have come home if she was able to. She didn't act like someone who would just leave. I mean, aside from the recent rebel phase that she was going through, her parents said that she was happy and excited because the family was getting ready to move. They said if she was going to leave, she would have mentioned something, at least to her younger siblings. She would have given them some kind of sign that, I'm going to be gone for a little while. There just was no reason that she would have left by choice. Police released a missing persons report in hopes of getting some kind of tip as to where Elyse was. Maybe hope that Elyse would reach out and be like, I'm fine, I just needed some space. And they soon started getting calls, and there were a couple that came in that said, we've seen her in San Luis Obispo, and police would follow up on these tips, but never really found any sign of her. The only thing that seems to really come from this tip line was the hope it gave her parents. People saying that they had seen her and made them think, okay, well, then she's out there and she's okay, and maybe, she just isn't ready to come home yet. Her grandmother ended up releasing a statement, and she directed it at Elyse, saying, please come home, we'll figure everything out, and you can come stay with me for a while if you just needed a break from your parents. Months passed with no sign of Elyse. 9 months after she disappeared, a 16-year-old boy walked into the police station. His name was Royce Casey, and he said he murdered Elyse. He told police everything about how she was killed, and even took them to where they left her body. He said that he and 2 other teenage boys did this. He said 15-year-old Jacob DeLashma, however that name is said, and 14-year-old Joseph Fiorella were involved in killing Elyse. The 3 of them had been friends for a while and had all dropped out of school at their young age and said, we just hang out and we get high, and they got high off of meth pretty regularly, so their brains weren't going too strong. Just not the greatest kids. And these weren't boys that anybody could see Elyse even hanging out with, so it was very shocking when these 3 were found to be connected to her. Now, the 3 boys regularly had a hangout spot. They liked to get high at this drainage pipe that was called the Pipe of Death. It's said they got this name when a boy had accidentally fallen and died there. Now, the youngest of the group, 14-year-old Joseph, was what you would call their leader. And the other 2 just kind of followed him around and did whatever he said. They didn't mind him bossing them around. Now, and by they, I'd say Joseph started it, got into sadism. And he had twisted and made this into something it wasn't. He created his own belief out of what he thought sadism was. And in reality, he just made it dark and gruesome, and it wasn't anything like actual sadism. The boys ended up ordering a knife off of a website with the intention of committing the perfect sacrifice of a virgin. All 3 of them lately had been obsessed with the idea of sacrificing someone. They talked about it nonstop and wouldn't even stop discussing it when they noticed other people could hear them. And, other people listened in on their conversations and were like, okay. These kids are on drugs. Maybe it's a hallucination. Maybe it's a fantasy. Who knows? Nobody really took them too serious about it, but kind of just chalked it up to crazy teenagers on drugs. Joseph was more into the idea of sacrificing someone than the other 2 were, and he started reading Aleister Crowley books, and he would repeat the things that he would read, and he started doing the things that he was reading, meaning that he would crucify frogs and then eat them, because the book said it was supposed to make you feel this great spiritual power inside of your body. And he would do this all the time. I feel like if this is what the goal is that you're getting from this frog, you shouldn't have to do it so many times. Shouldn't it be like a ritual, like a one-time thing? I'm not too sure what I'm talking about, so that's just my opinion. He became obsessed with having more power, and he claimed his main reason for this was to make their heavy metal band, named Hatred, better. Joseph told the other 2, if we sacrifice a virgin, then we get all of this power that is going to help us be better at playing guitar. It's going to make our band incredible. We're going to be famous. Everybody's going to love us. We're going to be rock stars. So that's kind of where this plan first started. And they had to find the perfect virgin who had to have blue eyes and blonde hair. Now, Joseph, he already knew who he wanted. He wanted Elyse. He was obsessed with her from the moment he first saw her. And he told the other 2, she is our ticket to hell. And that was their goal. Now, Jacob actually knew Elyse, or knew of Elyse, in a sense, because they had been in the same substance abuse class together, so she would recognize who he was. They just didn't really talk or hang out. So they came up with this plan that Jacob would get closer to Elyse, and from being in that class together, Jacob was like, I have the perfect plan. I know she smokes weed. That'll be my in. So they started talking. He was being super friendly, and he offered her to smoke with him, and she accepted. They ended up inviting her back to their pipe of death to hang out with them, and she kind of became a regular with them, and, every time she had free time, she would go smoke with them and just hang out for a bit. And they became, in my opinion, friends. Of course, she didn't know the sinister plots behind this friendship, but she thought they were friends. And it's just horrible to think that when she wasn't around, they were still coming up with this plan and figuring out the perfect way to sacrifice her. The day before she disappeared, she went to a friend's house who was throwing a party, and she saw Jacob while she was there. They had talked, and he told her that he had just gotten some really good weed, and if she was interested in smoking with him, he also had acid if she wanted to try it, and he would do it with her. And she agreed. She said, yeah, no, I want to. And so they exchanged their phone numbers with the idea that they would meet up the next night. The next night, the night that she put those pillows under her bed to sneak out, he had called her to set up the meeting point, like, where are we going to meet up? And her parents said that they remembered her getting about 2 phone calls at night, and it was a little bit after the last phone call that she received that Elyse said, I'm tired, I'm going to head up to bed. I love you all, I'll see you tomorrow. After she had snuck out, she met the 3 of them, and they all did smoke like they said they would, and one of the boys suggested that they head over to the eucalyptus field to continue smoking and hang out, because it was a prettier view when you're on your high. They got there, and after a few minutes, one of them just grabbed Elyse by the hair. He yanked her to the ground, and then pulling her hair, he forced her to stand back up before shoving her back to the ground. Jacob then took off his belt, and he used it to strangle Elyse while Royce held her down. At that point, Joseph had grabbed the knife and stabbed her in the neck. They then took turns using this knife to repeatedly stab Elise's neck. Royce later said to the police after turning himself in that Elyse just called for her mom the entire time. After all of the stabbings, they realized that she was still alive, so they started kicking and stomping on her neck. After they believed Elyse was dead, the 3 of them then took turns violating her body, and then they left her there. Royce said he stopped hanging out with Jacob and Joseph, and in the months after Elise's murder, he had found religion. And on the day of his confession, he had happened to see a missing persons poster of Elyse. He said it took a while to get the courage to confess because he was afraid that Joseph and Jacob were going to kill him as well. March 13th, 1996 was the day he had confessed and took them to the field where Elise's body was. She had been out there that entire time, which had been months at this point. Due to how long she was out there, her body was pretty badly decomposed at this point, and a pathologist was able to determine that her cause of death was from bleeding out, which means that the horrors that they had put Elyse through, she was alive the entire time. She had bled out and died after they had left her. Police immediately went and arrested Joseph and Jacob right after Royce's confession. They admitted to everything right away. They didn't try to deny it. They didn't try to act stupid about it. They just said, yeah, we did that. Joseph said it was all his idea, but he didn't force the other 2 to help him. They were willing. They were all charged, and their trials began. During the trial, Elise's grandma spoke, and she said if she had known what they were planning, she would have wrung their scrawny little necks. Now, obviously, they were found guilty. They were found guilty for murder, conspiracy to commit murder, conspiracy to commit rape, and kidnapping, along with a couple other charges. They were all sentenced to 25 years to life and sent to separate facilities so that they couldn't interact with each other. They ended up saying that they were inspired by the band Slayer and the lyrics in the songs to commit this gruesome crime, kind of trying to put the blame on something or somebody else. But Elise's parents took that to heart, and they ended up filing a lawsuit saying that Slayer's songs like Postmortem and Dead Skin Mask gave the boys instructions on how to kill their daughter. The judge ended up dismissing the case, saying that Slayer was not responsible for what happened to their daughter. You can't blame a person's music because they have no control over who listens to it or how that person interprets it or what they do with it. These singers don't even know who these boys are. There was nothing they could have done to change anything. They did end up filing another lawsuit claiming that Slayer was knowingly distributing harmful materials to minors. This was also dismissed by a judge because, again, Slayer had no control over what these boys did. They, again, don't actually know who these people are. And I understand the standpoint of, like, they wanted answers. Her parents just wanted a reason for why they lost their little girl. And they just wanted it all to make more sense to them. So I understand why they did this, but what a musician or an artist puts out is up to everybody's interpretation. They're not physically going out and telling people to do these things. And these boys were using it as an excuse. Jacob ended up making a statement saying that the music wasn't why they killed Elyse. He said that Joseph was just obsessed with her and obsessed with sacrificing her. In 2021, Royce Casey was denied parole. In 2022 and 2023, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, reversed the parole board's decision to release Royce, and he is still in prison. Joseph and Jacob have also been denied parole and are still behind bars. Elise's family really struggled after losing her. Due to all of their grief, they couldn't get up the motivation to go to work anymore and ended up losing their jobs. And the whole family just struggled. They came to a point where, they had to keep moving forward because they had 3 other children, but it shows you how hard it is for everybody involved. These 3 stupid, horrifying teenagers didn't just take Elyse Pahler. They took things from her family, her friends. They damaged so many people because they thought they had a right to sacrifice a human being. For what? For some crazy thought that they could be great musicians if they did so? It really shows how young and dumb they are to be 14 and 15 years old and on so many drugs. And I'm not using that as an excuse. It's literally they have always been making poor decisions. And unfortunately, this one took the life of a beautiful young girl whose family has to live with that every day. I want to thank you for listening to Elise's case, and remember to stay safe out there. I will be talking to you all next week. I hope you have a great day.